Hello friends, myself Advocate Chetan Hadolikar along with my fellow panelists Advocate Satish Dedia have come with a new discussion on a very interesting topic, that is section 14, subsection 1 and subsection 2 of RERA. Subsection 14 1 and 2 deal with the additional construction, changes to the sanction plan and defect liabilities of the promoter. Friends, often after a flat is booked by a consumer, it is often found out later that the developer has changed the sanction plans or have done additional or less constructions, or there may be a defect such as low quality of constructions, or even he has changed the amenities promised to you. Section 14 with subsection 1 and 2 have imposed a procedural guidelines on the builder in case of any changes required. Satish, you may now please give your introductory view on the section 14 subsection 1 and 2.
Hello friends, the Maharera orders and appellate judgments reveal that very few complaints are filed under section 14(1) and 2 of RERA. It appears that the allottees are still not able to understand these provisions properly. One of the major reasons for delay is contravention of section 14(1) and 14(2). The section 18 may be dealing with the immediate relief. However, the contravention of section 14(1) and 14(2) have long-term impact, and therefore this video is important.
Thanks for the intro, Satish. My first question to you is that how a scheme under RERA departs from a MOFA.
The difference is of the timing of disclosure. The RERA makes a departure from MOFA by imposing an obligation of the promoter to make full disclosure of the information for public view in advance at the time of registration of the project with MARERA.
Friends, you can find the disclosure related to the FSI and the development potential of the project entered on the Maharera website. You just need to go and visit the Maharera web page of the project. There you can find details and disclosures made in respect of area of the plot, total buildings count, aggregate area of recreational open spaces or recreational grounds, FSI details, parking details, and there are uploaded documents of title reports, layout approvals, building plan approvals, declaration in Form B, and draft of the flat sale agreement, which may be useful to you all. Satish, now as per Neil Kamal judgment, the true and the harmonious interpretation of any provision, it has to be read with other relevant provisions. So far, for harmonious provisions of section 14, which other provisions of RERA shall it be read together?
To understand the meaning, to understand the meaning, scheme, and for harmonious construction of section 14(1) and 2, one shall read the relevant provisions, mainly with the preamble, provision related to the obligation of making true and full disclosure of FSI and development potential under section 4, subsection 2, C, D, and H, section 11, subsection 3, and the provisions related to the formation of society and conveyance under section 11, subsection 4A, E, F, and section 17, along with the applicable Maharera rules 2K, 2M, 2P, 3F, 3G, 4, 9, 10, etc., as well as the provision related to unfair trade practice under section 7C.
Satish, now can you tell us what is the effect of section 11, subsection 4E, section 70 and Maharera rules.
These provisions, read with applicable Maharera rules, impose obligations on the promoter to form the society of allottees as soon as 50% of the apartments are booked and transfer his title as per the disclosure made to the allottees at the time of sale of the apartments by executing a conveyance deed in favor of such society within the stipulated time by law.
So, what does this scheme exactly suggest?
The sequence of these provisions reveal the scheme and its four stages. Number one, true and full disclosure at the time of sale of the apartments. Number two, development as per these disclosures. Number three, formation of the society. And number four, transfer of title as per the disclosures. The scheme suggests that the concept of developability has to be read harmoniously with the concept of formation of the society and transfer of title as per the disclosures.
Satish, what is the main purpose of provision of Section 14 of RERA?
To make the allottee sure of the ultimate structure of the building, apartment and layout as well as the common areas, amenities and facilities would be the development of the apartment building and layout should be in accordance with the plan sanctioned as per the prevailing policy and specifications. Once the entire project is placed before the allottee, the promoter is not required to obtain further consent of the allottees as long as the promoter puts up construction in accordance with such sanction plans and disclosures made to the allottee. Once the allottee has agreed to purchase apartment on basis of such disclosures, the law prohibits the promoter from making any changes to such sanction plans, amenities, facilities, etc. without previous consent of the allottee.
Satish, moving forward now, what can be the reasons for provisions in Section 14, subsection 2 that a promoter cannot make any additions or alterations in the sanction plans, layout plans, and specifications and the nature of fixtures, fittings, common amenities, etc., without the previous consent?
Contract Act will give explanation. Allottee has purchased the apartment by relying on the sanction plan, specification, nature of the amenities, fixtures, fittings disclosed or furnished by the promoter at the time of sale of the apartment. The promise of the promoter becomes consideration for the allottee. This disclosure is very basic foundation of the concluded contract between the parties. Promoter has also agreed to transfer his title to the society of the allottees, and therefore any changes made by the promoter unilaterally to such disclosures will amount to breach. Under RERA, such promises and obligations become statutory duties of the promoter, and the RERA prohibits the promoter from contravening the law. And these are the reasons for provision of consent in section 14.
Satish, suppose in the case where a registered sale deed is not yet executed in the favor of the allottee, and in such cases, does the developer or builder still have to obtain previous consent of the allottee?
If the allottee has paid due installments to the promoter, then the execution and registration of the agreement will become statutory obligation of the promoter, and therefore the absence of the registered agreement will not come in the way of allottee in invoking provisions of section 14(1) and 2, and the promoter is not absolved from obtaining previous consent from the allottee as per provisions of section 14(1) and 2.
Satish, so from our discussion, it is now clear that the provisions of MOFA under Section 7 and 7A are not diluted under RERA. Now, what type of consent from the allotee is a valid consent?
Such consent aims to modify the existing concluded contract between the parties, and therefore such consent will be valid only if it is previous or prior, specific, written and affirmative. Prior consent means it must be taken before the proposed changes are made. Specific means the promoter should have made specific disclosure to the allotee along with the proposed changes and the comparison of the existing plan and the proposed changes, or as the case may be. Affirmative means the allotee should have made affirmative positive consent for the proposed changes. Such consent must be free and informed consent. Such consent should not be indirect, implied, or unclear consent.
So, whether a promoter can insert a clause in the agreement and take a prior consent of the allotee for making additions or alteration or use of FSI, etc.
No, the consents in the agreement will not be valid and binding because the same will be vague and uncertain. The consents in the agreement will be considered as blanket consents. The opening words in the section 14.2, notwithstanding anything contained, confirm that such consent in the agreement will not be helpful to the promoter for making subsequent additions and alterations.
Satish, as per you, what does the language of section 14 subsection 1 reflects?
The plain language of the section 42 and the word shall make it clear that the promoters can carry out the development and construction in the project only in accordance with the sanction plan and specification disclosed and furnished to the allotee at the time of sale of the apartment.
So, whether an unauthorized construction beyond the approved plans or permissible plans will be a contravention of section 14 subsection 1.
Yes, when the section 14.1 read with other provisions and heading to the section 14 impose an obligation or duty on the promoter to adhere to the sanctioned plans and the project specifications.
Satish, can you just brief us with the highlights of section 14 subsection 2 of RERA?
Section 14.2 has a non-obstant clause having an overriding effect over any similar provision in any law, contract, or agreement. It clarifies without any doubt that Section 14.1 is a mandatory duty of the promoters to adhere to the sanction plans and project specifications. Section 14.2 does not differentiate whether additional construction is in the form of additional floors or additional structure. Section 14.2 provides two types of consents. Section 14.2 Roman 1 requires previous consent of individual allottees for the additions or alterations in the apartment and common areas, whereas Section 14.2 Roman 2 require previous consent of two-thirds allottees for any other additions or alterations that are not covered by Section 14.2 Roman 1. It excludes the promoter from giving such consent. It defines minor and major changes with the help of proviso. Explanation to the Section 14.2 Roman 2 restricts the right of a bulk purchaser and his group entities by treating them as one allottee only.
Satish, now if you see, the construction is a highly technical and a complex process, and everything cannot be planned. The promoter may require to make some changes due to technical reasons. Taking consent for minor changes will delay the project. So, do you think restrictions in section 14.2 is a rigid provision and against the promoter's right to exploit the full development potential of the project land.
No, the promoter is merely required to satisfy that promoter has made true and full disclosure of the proposed development to the allottee at the time of sale of the apartment, and that thereafter the promoter has carried out development according to such disclosure. Section 14.2 is actually flexible that even after such disclosures, the promoter can make changes subject to previous consent of the allottees. The proviso thereto makes it further flexible by excluding changes required to be done due to practical issues like minor changes or alteration as may be necessary due to architectural and structural reasons, provided the same are duly recommended and verified by an authorized architect or engineer.
So, do you mean the promoter can directly carry out minor changes or alteration in the apartment with the recommendation of the architect?
No, the promoter can make such minor changes only after proper declaration and intimation to the allottees, and such changes shall not be excluded by the explanation given to section 14.2 Roman 1.
So, Satish, whether the changes in the floors of the apartments or its entrance, location, direction, height, or removal of mezzanine floor will amount to minor changes or major substantial changes?
Such changes will be considered as major changes as per the explanation given to section 14.2 Roman 1.
Satish, say for example, I wanted to book an apartment on the top floor. Now, the developer wants to add one more floor, or say vice versa. I have purchased an apartment on a lower floor, and now the developer wants to raise the upper floors, and my apartment becomes the top floor. So, whether in such cases the promoter needs to take my consent?
Yes, such changes will be considered as major changes because the same are not covered by the exceptions provided by this section.
Satish, now what changes related to a carpet area of an apartment require consent?
Changes related to the carpet area can be of two types. Number one, changes in the sanction plan itself, or number two, variation occurred due to the construction. First, suppose carpet area of the apartment sold by the promoter at the time of booking is 50 square meters, but subsequently the promoter reduces or increases the carpet area of the promoter. If it is increased, the promoter will immediately ask the allottees to pay for it. But if it is reduced, promoter hardly informs or reduces price of the apartment proportionately. So in such cases, the allottee has to remain alert. Second category, sometimes though the carpet area of the apartment gets reduced due to use of non-standardized bricks or cement blocks etc. of different sizes, or if unskilled labor are employed who fail to maintain the thickness and line level of the plaster or gypsum or POP etc. Or the promoter might have reduced the thickness of the RCC walls etc.
Satish, now can you explain the point regarding reduction in thickness of the wall and its impact?
Suppose a promoter has completed foundation and completed few RCC slabs, and thereafter the FSI or other benefits are increased, and the promoter decides to put up additional construction by increasing floors. In such circumstances, it is not possible to increase the strength of foundation of the building to take care of such additional construction. So promoter may change the design and reduces thickness of RCC walls and by using lightweight materials. This will naturally result in increase in the usable carpet area of the apartment, though actual carpet area of the apartment remains same in the sanction plans. Such changes will definitely affect lifespan of the building in the long run, and hence this will be contravention of section 14.
So, in such circumstances, can a promoter demand additional price due to increase in usable carpet area of the apartment?
No, in this case the actual carpet area of the flat is not increased. The explanation provided to the section 14 to Roman 1 clearly provide that the cutting into of any wall will not be considered as minor changes.
Satish, now if the promoter wishes to put some additional building and this additional building can be placed only after relocating the additional RG, I mean the recreation ground or mandatory open spaces, whether in such cases the promoter is required to obtain the previous consent of the allottees.
Yes, for two reasons. Number one, the new building is not part of the sanctioned plan, which is shown to the allottees at the time of sale of the apartments. And number two, the area on which the new building is proposed is shown as RG in the sanction plan, in that sanction plan. So, irrespective whether such RG is compulsory or additional, the promoter will require to obtain consent of the allottees in such cases.
Say, suppose in the case the allottee was aware that the promoter is developing the layout in a phase-wise manner and there was a possibility of further construction and there was a disclosure to that effect that there was possibilities of further construction by the promoter. Allottee had not objected to it and thus there was an implied consent. Now, in such cases, will the promoter shall again obtain the consent of the allottees?
See, the taste is that consent is not required if the entire project is placed before the allottee at the time of the sale of the apartment. The moot question is whether there was a disclosure in the sanction plan furnished to the allottee at the time of sale of the apartment and whether there is an informed specific consent of the allottees or not. If the answer is no, then the promoter is required to obtain previous specific consent of the allottees. Implied consent will not be.
Satish, now in a case the project is delayed and in meantime permissible FSI is increased due to change in government policies. There are clauses in the flat sale agreement giving permission or authority to the promoter to utilize such FSI. Society is not formed and conveyance is not executed. So, till then, the promoter is the absolute owner of the property. In such circumstances, whether the promoter shall be required to take the consent of the allottees.
Yes, the promoter is still required to obtain prior specific written affirmative consent of the allottees in such cases. The concept of developability and transfer of title are inseparable and go together. After specific disclosure of development potential and the proposed development, the promoter will be having limited right to carry out that much development only in accordance with the sanction plan and then transfer his title to the society within stipulated period by law. The promoters cannot be allowed to get the benefit of the wrong of delay in completion of the project or not forming the society within stipulated time by law or not executing conveyance within the period stipulated by law. Clauses in the agreement retaining such rights will be considered as blanket consents and hence will not be valid and not binding on the allottees.
Satish, moving further, it is often observed that many promoters delay the formation of the society or the execution of the conveyance deed. So, whether in such circumstances the promoter can still claim rights in respect of the balance FSI or subsequently increased FSI if allotted?
If the promoter had complied with the legal obligations of the formation of society and execution of conveyance within the time stipulated in the applicable rules, the promoter could not have claimed the right to use any residual FSI or any additional FSI which could have been brought on the project land. A promoter cannot be heard to say that promoter with did not comply with these provisions of law, and even though promoter might have contravened the law by delaying the formation of society and execution of conveyance, still the promoter has the right to or power to use the residual FSI or additional FSI which could have been brought on the land. To accept such type of argument would amount to rewarding the violation of the provisions of law, and therefore such an argument of the promoter will be rejected by the authority.
Satish, now take the case if any additional FSI is made available due to amalgamation of the plot which is adjoining the plot after the sale of the apartment. Can the promoter take benefit of such additional FSI without consent of the allottees?
Yes, still the promoter will be required to obtain consent of the allottees because it will be a major change to the sanctioned plans shown to the allottees.
Satish, take for example, there is a project which has an FSI sanctioned of 10,000 square meters and there are proposed 4 buildings which are to be built in that project. Promoter has registered each building separately, say in July 2017, and now there is a change in government policy and the new DCR 2034, the permissible FSI now has increased by 4,000 square meters. Now the builder has the total FSI of 14,000 square meters. And in this case, with the additional increased FSI, the builder or the promoters plan to construct one more building. In such cases, does he has to take the consent of allottees of the first 4 buildings?
Yes, because the promoter is not the true owner of the subsequent increase in the FSI as it belongs to the four societies of the proposed buildings in the layout.
Satish, say suppose in a case of a layout there are again 4 buildings and have a total permissible FSI of 10,000 square meters. OC for 2 buildings is obtained in December 2017 and the FSI of say about 50%, I think 5,000 square meters is being consumed. Now there is a change in government policies and due to the DCPR 2034, permissible FSI of the layout is increased to 14,000 square meters. And with this increase, the promoter can construct one more building or can increase the floors of the existing buildings. So, in such cases, whether still the promoter requires to obtain the consent of the allottees?
Yes, because as per the provisions of section 14.1 and 14.2, it will adversely affect the limited common areas and amenities in the layout, and therefore the promoter will be required to obtain consent of allottees of the every building in the layout.
So, normally, in such cases, how much additional FSI can be utilized in the remaining 2 incomplete buildings?
Since The occupation certificates of the two completed buildings are already obtained. In this case, the promoter can utilize the additional FSI in the remaining two incomplete buildings to the extent of their original FSI consumption ratio.
Satish, in case of change of promoters, whether the new promoter is entitled to make changes without prior consent as required under section 14.
Merely because the promoter is changed, a new promoter is not entitled to make changes contrary to provisions of section 14(1) and 14(2), and he is required to obtain consent of the allottees as per provisions.
Satish, say in an ongoing slum rehabilitation project, means an SRA project, due to the amendment in the law of rehab of tenements, there there was an increase in area from 269 to 300 square foot, and in return the promoter would get a proportionate increase in the sale component area. So whether developer will be required to pay compensation to the allottees.
In such cases, the promoter may not be required to compensate the allottees for use of such additional FSI. However, the promoter may be required to compensate the allottees for major reduction in the common areas and amenities, if any. The adjudicating authority will consider each case on merits. The adjudicating authority may inquire whether the promoter has purposely delayed the project in anticipation of such FSI or not.
Satish, in an ongoing incomplete project as per rental housing schemes, due to several changes, promoter become entitled to additional FSI, and number of floors and flats can be increased, whereas the open space areas or amenities areas are allowed to be reduced. So, whether the promoter needs to obtain consent of the allottees in such cases.
Yes, the changes will be considered as major changes because they may result into permanent losses for the allottees. Plus, the additional FSI and benefits will belong to the proposed society of the allottees, and therefore the promoter is required to obtain previous consent of the allottees.
Whether allottees can ask for compensation for such additional constructions for any other reasons.
If a proportionate increase in common areas, amenities, and facilities is not made, the same will result in permanent losses to the existing allottees because such allottees have to share such common areas, amenities, and facilities permanently with new allottees of the additional construction. Therefore, the existing allottees can claim compensation for such permanent losses.
Now, besides FSI and common amenities, what can other possible changes be?
The Maharera is not insisting that promoters shall disclose on the Maharera website the concessions obtained by the promoters from sanctioning authority. It is difficult for allottees being laymen to find out as well as understand the vast impact of such concessions. Such concessions may be related to the compulsory open spaces, paved RG, cantilever, projections, canopy, society office, gymnasium, swimming pool, conversion of parking spaces, reduction of number of parking spaces, higher density of tenements per hectare than permissible limit, etc. Therefore, the promoters must take previous consent of the allottees for all subsequent concessions which are substantial changes.
Satish, now can an individual allottee ask compensation for unauthorized changes by the promoter in the area, design, location, direction, specification, floors, and building of his apartment?
Yes,
Now, whether an allotee can claim compensation for reduction or changes or relocation of any common areas like garden, open areas, parking spaces, clubhouses, swimming pool, etc.
Allottees can ask for the compensation for every change that is substantial or major and which contravene the provisions of Section 14.
Satish, now say the promoter wants to change the single parking spaces into stack parking. The builder is doing so to satisfy the conditions of the applicable rules for proposed number of apartments. Whether, in such cases, the allotee can claim compensation even if the change will increase the number of parking spaces.
The DC rules provide number of parking spaces to be provided depending upon the size of the apartments in a layout. In subject case, the promoter has not made adequate parking space available for parking the vehicles, and hence the promoter is required to convert existing surface parking spaces into stack or puzzle parking spaces. In such a scenario, though the number of parking spaces is increased, the allottees will have to share the space above their parking spaces with other allottees who will be then allotted stack parking above the existing surface parkings. Now, it would not be possible for the society in future to increase the parking spaces. So, for an allottee, these are the permanent losses and hardships. Therefore, an allottee can claim compensation for such changes, and the promoter must take previous consent before making such changes.
Satish, can an allotee claim compensation for any unauthorized changes which result in overall operational and maintenance cost to the allotee?
Yes, provided the same are not excluded under Section 14(2).
Satish, say that the builder has now received additional FSI and he has to take the consent of the allottees. Can the allottee now demand extra compensation from the builder for giving his consent?
Yes, because after the disclosure, the promoter is duty bound to transfer and convey to the proposed society the entire development potential of the plot, which was permissible as per the original sanction plans disclosed to the allottees at the time of sale of the apartments. Thus, the proposed society will become deemed owner of such FSI. Promoter can utilize that development potential, but the promoter shall hold such plot as a trustee of the society till execution of conveyance. FSI is attached to the plot, and therefore all subsequent increase in the FSI or other benefits that can be generated and uploaded on that plot will belong to the and belong to the proposed society of the allottees being deemed owner. Compensation for such utilization of FSI will be payable to such allottees in proportion to the carpet area of their respective apartments.
Satish, now say on completion of the construction, there is there is some residual FSI which has not been utilized.
It will also belong to the proposed society of the allottees.
Satish, say some of the allottees challenge the sanction plans and the utilization of the subsequent increased FSI. Say this happened in January 2019 without the consent of the allottees. Now, say the building is been completed in 2020, authority passed an order directing the promoter to pay compensation. So, whether all allottees will be entitled to such compensation?
No, only those allottees who have purchased the apartments before the increase in FSI will be entitled to seek compensation from the promoter. And the allottees who have purchased the apartment subsequently after the amendment of the sanction plan will not be entitled to seek the compensation from the promoter.
Satish, now say the new DCPR 2034 brings new changes. For example, the promoter is required to hand over the amenity open spaces or AOS as per DCPR rule number 14A 2 in plots which area is exceeding 10,000 square meters, or say incentive housing or IH in plot areas of 4,000 meters or more. And in lieu of this, the municipality provides an additional FSI as incentives to the promoters. Also, the promoter is entitled to benefits, say like deducting of 15% of the RG area or additional 100% FSI for setback or DP roads. So, in such cases, is the promoter need to obtain consent for such changes, and does he has to pay compensation to the allottees?
Yes, new DCPR 2034 Rule 9 Sub Rule 6A provides two options. In the ongoing partially completed project, a promoter can complete the development as per the permissions obtained under old DCR of 1991 or complete can completely convert the project as per the new DCPR 2034. So only if the promoter opts for second option of conversion, then only the conditions of DCPR 2034 will apply to such case. Such changes, being substantial changes, will definitely require previous consent of the allottees because the same may result into permanent losses to the allottees. In such cases, additional FSI and benefits will belong to the proposed society of the allottees, and therefore, in such circumstances also, the promoter will require to obtain prior consent of the allottees, and the allottees can claim compensation also.
Satish, now the law regarding additional construction is clear even before RERA, and still there are several cases where sanctioning authorities are still permitting promoters to make substantial changes, put up additional construction, or permitting the use of subsequent increase in FSI. Still, the allottees have to put a fight for their rights.
Yes, unfortunately, the officials of sanctioning authorities are still ignoring the effect of MOFA and RERA. Some promoters or project architects also mislead officials. For example, in the MCGM website for online approvals, it contains a specific field in the online system where the promoter or project architect has to upload the NOC or consent of the allottees or resolution of societies consenting for such amendments to the sanction plans. However, in many cases, instead of instead of uploading such NOC or resolution, some other documents are uploaded like PR code, etc. And MCAGM officials are also ignoring the same by not raising any objection. For such reasons, the allottees may suffer and they require to fight to protect their rights. So if the sanctioning authority and project architect insist full compliance of RERA in letter and spirit before submitting amendment proposal that contravene section 14(1) and 2, such issues can be curtailed and the promoter then will have no option but to obtain consent from the allottees.
Satish, now an interesting question. If the promoter has registered multiple phases of a layout as separate projects and now the promoter wants to change the common areas of the layout which is situated in one of the phases. So, in such cases, whether the promoter is required to obtain consent of allottees of all phases or only of that building.
Yes, provided the allottees of other phases have undivided share in such common areas, amenities or facilities as per the approved layout plans.
Satish, in case of redevelopment societies, the new allottees of the saleable component have not yet become members of the owner society. Whether promoter in such cases are required to obtain previous consent of such new allottees for major changes.
Yes,
Satish, now there is a violation from the builder of section 14. Now an allottee under which sections of RERA can claim compensation and what
allottee can file a claim under section 12 and 18(3) of RERA by filing a complaint before the adjudicating authority. Allottee has to establish two things. First, that the promoter has contravened section 14(1) and 14(2), and second, that the allottee has suffered losses due to such contravention.
which factors will be considered by the adjudicating authority for determining the compensation payable by the promoter to the allottee.
The adjudicating authority shall have due regard to the factors mentioned in section 72, and mainly two factors. Number one, the gains to the promoter due to contraventions, and number two, the losses suffered by the allottee due to such contraventions.
Now, if the promoter has submitted a proposal for additional construction or other changes without the prior consent of the allottees, so in such cases, what interim relief can be sought by the allottees?
Depending on the circumstances of each case, the interim reliefs can be number one, stay on putting up additional construction. Number two, stay on obtaining approval for additional construction. Number three, prior verification of the structural design from professional institute like IIT at the cost of promoter. Number four, stay on sale of the additional construction. And number five, to deposit the 100% sale price of additional construction in RERA account till final decision on the matter.
Now, what additional reliefs can be sought by the allottee under such a complaint?
The allottees can ask additional reliefs like formation of the society, execution of conveys, etc.
Can an authority levy a penalty on the promoter for contravention of Section 14?
Yes, the registration authority can levy penalty under section 61 on the promoter for violation of section 14 and section 7C.
Satish, now resolution of such issues with the promoter will lead to litigations, which may take a longer period to be decided. So, in such cases, what are the precautions an allottee should take?
Verification of all relevant documents and facts, unity, alertness, and patience are the main keys to get success in such matters. Such matters involve technical and legal interpretation of applicable laws, and therefore the allottees must approach a proper advocate who shall be aware of all applicable laws and judgments. In such matters, a promoter may attempt to mislead the authority on all possible grounds, like such complaint will delay the project, etc. In such circumstances, the allottees shall not lose their patience. promoter may attempt to obtain backdated consents from other allottees by using various pressure tactics, and therefore the allottees shall maintain their unity at all cost. If total number of flats are booked more than 50%, then the allottees shall form their society, or else the allottees shall form their association as early as possible. The allottees shall not sign consent in favor of promoter for such additional construction without proper advice from the advocate.
Uh, Friends, we come to an end of our panel discussion, and I take this opportunity to thank Advocate Satish for the valuable information and guidance given to us. Thank you, Satish, and bye, friends. Bye, Satish.